Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Networking, Capturing, and Leveraging. You should be able to see our screen here. If not, please let us know, and we'll provide some support there. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Looks like we've got a few folks coming in. Okay, again, wanted to thank you so much for joining us here for Networking, Capturing, and Leveraging today. My name is Jasmine Francois, and I will be your moderator today. I'm also joined by a team of facilitators and our subject matter expert, Robert Underwood. So, I wanted to first get into a little bit about some of the interactivity features that you'll be able to see throughout this session. One thing that you want to be aware of is that we will be having some live polling questions that will appear for you to receive full credit. Please respond and interact with that so that you can again receive completion for this actual course. Your certificate of completion will be available in your virtual learning environment upon completion of the live webcast session. And what I'll go ahead and do is actually put that into the chat so that you have access to that. All right. So hopefully you've been able to see the SurveyMonkey link that I just put into the chat. That will be completed upon exiting the actual live session. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we should be able to respond to those. Again, following today's session, please make sure you complete that post-course survey, and that really helps us to improve the actual session. All right. In addition to the live webcast, the learning environment does have multiple rooms, and we are asking that as you complete this session, please go ahead and take a look around the virtual environment and go ahead and check into some of the resources that are available to you in the Resource Center. And then finally, if you're having any technical difficulties, please reach out to us. Type in the Q&A box some of the issues that you're experiencing, and we should be able to support you on that. All right, so now you've been able to take a look at, I've just put on the screen the course roadmap. And the course roadmap is really designed for you to kind of see where you are in the closed, in the actual 8A program in terms of year 0 to 2, years 3 to 4, pardon me, and years 5 to 7 and 8 to 9. And so you may have noticed that you're actually in um, years 5 to 7 here with networking, capturing, and leveraging. And so what that tells you is that we're, even though you may be in one of the other years, this year is actually quite pivotal for your firm. And why is that important? Because this is the transition year. So in transitioning, you've got to begin to take certain steps that are going to help position your firm for transitioning into the latter half of the 8A program. And so this course roadmap that you'll see are really aligned with the years that you're in. If you're taking this course either because it's a prerequisite or because you wanted to attend, it's going to be very helpful in getting you to the next phase. All right. So as we're going into years 5 to 7, what are some of the things that we're really going to cover today during the course overview? We're going to be talking a little bit about understanding what managing growth, networking, capturing, and leveraging that information is going to be helpful for you. And so the learning objective is really to understand how you take a look at your network and put that to good use for you, how to position certain opportunities, shape federal work, but then also how are you going to use contracts that you have been able to influence to help grow your footprint in the federal workspace, and but then also how are you going to increase your win probability? And so really we're just going to cover a lot of what has been defined as what the 8A firms use to ensure their success. And while it may at times feel not as tangible as most, it's going to be extremely helpful once you get accustomed to applying them. Okay, so some of the training topics that we'll be going over today: networking in the federal space, strategic networking, in terms of marketing. How are we going to take strategic marketing to the next level by identifying activities such as prospecting and lead identification? Then we're going to go into what the proposal and award phase is going to look like in stage 3. Then stage 4, nurturing, and this is by far each phase or stage that you go through is paramount to the entire business development pipeline that you will need to get ready and prime for continuous growth of your firm. And so also we'll have some time for training and recap. Definitely encourage you to ask questions as these things arise, maybe things that you're experiencing that you're really not sure of, especially in this unique environment that we're in now, where your networking may have changed a bit due to what we've been experiencing over the past couple of years, the pandemic, and how do we continue to use some of those tips and tricks to be effective. And so first thing we're going to start in is roadmap to networking in the federal space. And so um, you've got to understand, first of all, what is going to be your targeted approach for your organization. And that's going to be based on your relationships, your ability to network through various landscapes, leverage those partnerships that you have, and then allow your firm to be able to kind of get at it, whether it be through partnerships um, or direct awards. How are you going to go ahead and grab some of that low hanging fruit? All right, so networking landscape. As you can see, pardon me, it's pretty broad, but also it's now a hybrid. So not only are you taking together that face to face that you may or may not have been accustomed to, maybe you're familiar with that, but just from industry days or meeting with other firms, business to business workshops, but now you are blending those with online platforms, such as virtual industry days, which those have been first and foremost now, because really trying to get together in a large space with a lot of firms isn't always doable at this time. But as you can see, the government is really taking a hold of the virtual technologies out there, using virtual meetup spaces, LinkedIn rooms, at virtual industry days for each agency, and they're blending those with the what you are already familiar with, which is scheduling to meet with the small business office, scheduling to meet with the program office, possibly doing a demo, bringing your team before the actual agency or the program office, and then from there presenting your capabilities. And so all of this is continuous. Networking is a continuous activity, and it happens on multiple um, platforms and in multiple venues. And so We want you to think about networking in terms of kind of this is the lifeline or lifeblood as they call it for your business. It is the oxygen for your business. So at one point there's never a point in time that you are not networking and leveraging this hybrid space to further the growth of your business. Okay, so now we're going to move on a little bit to what we like to understand. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat box, whether either going too fast or you'd like for us to dig into a kind of a different topic for a little bit. Please, by all means, jump in. So we're going to start with what does it look like to think about developing your networking strategy? And we use this business development funnel really to help kind of categorize and shape what is it looking like and where are we starting? And so there are four stages of this networking strategy that is very, very important to ensure that you've got a continuous process that you can always leverage, you know is going to work, you know is going to qualify leads, and you know is going to bring in new business. So first and foremost, market planning, research, doing your targeted market research. And you'll hear in some of the other live sessions that this is something that you really want to be very deliberate about. And in understanding what do we mean by being deliberate in market planning, you have identified the buyers of your product. Absolutely. So out of the 420 or 480 agencies out there, there may be 30 agencies that buy products that are similar to products, services, support that are similar to what you deliver. But not all 30 of them are going to be prime customers that are a perfect fit for you. That is going to require some in-depth research. And that means digging into the spending of the agency, understanding where they may have fallen short, understanding where budgetary constraints may have impacted them, understanding where maybe a failed audit or some sort of faulty breach, what have you, has been reported, and that agency really needs to focus on certain areas that of improvement by which your firm provides support, services, or products for. And that is going to take you down from maybe those 30 different agencies to maybe, anywhere from 8 to 10. And then from the 8 to 10, who are the likely purchasers of those? And that's where you start to do prospecting, strategic marketing, pursuit of those leads, so that now you are getting it down to maybe 2 to 3 qualifying leads within the agency and even in the commercial sector. And from there, now you've had an opportunity to say, okay, we can present our capabilities. We can qualify these leads. We can assign a capture manager to it, or a BD person, whoever that is, or marketing person to this particular potential prospect customer, shape the actual work or requirement to be done that is needed, and then go from proposal to award and then nurturing. And so we're going to go through all of these different levels of this funnel, so to speak, to kind of help walk you through that. Okay, so understanding the objective of networking is quite simple. So, what is the glue for making networking work? It's information sharing. So how are you going to be able to even get the attention of your customer and tracking, new customers as they enter the business development funnel and your business development pipeline? How do you get them to move through these different stages? So it's going to be, intel gathering, getting information, sharing information about customers, what industry is doing, how you can support that potential customer, and what solutions, products, services, support that your firm can bring to the table. The more you share information about what industry is doing, what your firm capabilities are, the more you can have a fruitful discussion about providing support to the agency. And then from there, it's a two-way street, right? So acquiring information, intel gathering, delivering information, becoming a subject matter expert to a potential prospect or client is also going to be a great way to be memorable in the eyes of a potential customer. And then you always want to kind of validate some of the assumptions and some of the information that you've put out there. And what do we mean by validate? You do a kind of a sanity check on, is this really the problem, or are there some other political issues that may be in play in terms of either environmental or regulations that may have changed or funding that may have impacted decisions. And once you're able to test and validate some of those assumptions, some of that information that you've gathered, now you can start to talk a little bit more and more closely about what you believe the customer's problem to be, through that accurate assessment of all the information and research that you've done and what the solution your firm is proposing. Now, in all likelihood, you will be a strong candidate for winning that award. So once you win that award, your goal is to over deliver. Your goal is to, again, gain additional insight into customer issues, low hanging fruit, such as hidden requirements that a customer may have that are not a part of the original scope of the contract, but certainly can be something that can be added. And then now you're nurturing that contract by continually providing value added services to the government. And by doing that, you nurture the contract and then you let the customer know you can trust us. We're here to ensure your success, nurturing the customer, the contract requirements, and from there, additional requirements work will surface. And so this is kind of just a an idea of how important information sharing is in terms of acquiring that information, sharing that information, validating that information, using that information as a source of data points for speaking to the customer's needs in the proposal, and then after award, being able to nurture that contract. Okay, so in incorporating some capture planning and management, one thing I would say in terms of strategic networking, capturing, it is often a term that is used across industries. It's quite inconsistent depending on the industries that you're using it in. Sometimes it can refer to the initial release of a certain solicitation, and at some point, it can also refer to the actual process in terms of capturing that opportunity and in within a firm internally managing the capture of that opportunity. Neither here nor there, the incorporating the capture planning process is going to be extremely helpful, but we're not really going to talk about it in depth from the proposal perspective and from the RFP perspective, but just from the initial the broader picture of what it means to capture this actual opportunity that is out there, and how do you shape that opportunity and incorporate that into your networking strategy. And so as you hear us use this term capture planning, capture management, it's not going to necessarily speak specifically to the solicitation RFP process that a firm may have, but more along the lines of broader concept that we're trying to get at here. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and transition over to our subject matter expert. Bob, if you go ahead and take over and take us through the next couple of sections.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Bob Underwood. I'm the founder of Engaged Coaching. In my background, in a nutshell, I'm a retired Marine. Spent 25 years. I was a fighter pilot. So if you haven't seen Top Gun, I encourage you to go see that. Great flick, great flying scenes. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for several Fortune 500 companies, as well as being a contractor on the government side. So I've kind of seen this from both sides of the fence, so to speak. And so a lot of the things I'm going to share with you today, this is really good material, and I'll share some of the things that have been helpful for me. But the bottom line is, hey, I've been where you're at. I'm there right now, and hopefully we'll learn some new things together. So let's break down what Jasmine started to share around the marketing funnel. So as she shared, we tend to focus on nurturing first, but really it begins at the top of our funnel with market planning. So let's take a deeper look into that. We all know how large the federal government is and how many opportunities there are, and it's easy to get lost in the overwhelm. But some market planning will greatly assist us in better targeting right at the start so that we don't waste our efforts for things that are not truly in our lane. Oftentimes, this stage is overlooked, but it is key to help us to better know who is buying what we are selling, who the key people are that are involved in the process, and most importantly, where we need to focus our efforts. So our brand identity helps us to better focus our marketing efforts. Here we determine which agencies, departments, and functions within those agencies that will benefit the most from your product or service. Are you more focused in the training department? Are you more focused on military applications or civilian agencies? Again, who will benefit the most from what you're bringing to the marketplace? Another good question to ask yourself at this stage is, hey, who do I most want to work with? While it may be true that anyone can benefit from your product, take a look at your personal network of contacts and experience as well as your current customers, and that will help you bring some more focus into this area. Being aware of any weaknesses in your offering, combined with a good understanding of your competitors' abilities, will also help to narrow this down. And at the bottom of this slide, we've got a good book recommendation from Peter Block, A Guide to Getting Your Expertise Used. So check that out if you haven't done that yet. So step 2 is establishing target market. Because increasing revenue is so important to us as business owners and leaders, this is, kind of hard because we see so many opportunities that we can do. But applying some discipline here will actually improve your ability to win the contract as well as grow your revenue more predictably. We see under the focus part of the slide to start with 1 or 2 goods or services and perhaps 1 or 2 agencies, and then grow from there. And maybe you've already done that. Knowing the areas that you may be weak in will help you identify some good partners to work with for opportunities that you see. And instead of paying a premium price for a service like Bloomberg.gov, there may be better, less expensive options that have a similar focus to what yours is. Ask around, find the best one, and then work the process. The fear of missing out, right? FOMO, that's a common theme. And the suggested activity is to have 2 different elevator pitches, right? One for the thing that you're good at and passionate about, and the other for everything to everyone just in case. So if you have both of those at the ready, that will quickly identify which one is most effective for your business in your target market. So establishing marketing objectives. You can see from the bullets here that comparing your self-assessment to others' perceptions of you will help validate that you're focusing on the best possible target. Sometimes we need to adjust a bit from what we learn in this step. Then we take a look at the overall strategy. The purpose of a business strategy is to keep it visible throughout our daily work, to ensure that we arrive at the destination that we really want to get to. A lot of times we just react. That's why this is so important. This applies here to our marketing strategy and daily activities as well. Some other bullets here are what do we need to grow? And also, what do we want to be doing as a company when we graduate from the 8A program? So you can see that being strategic here will pay off later. And finally, on this slide, you need to have a plan before you enter the networking environment. I don't know about you, but when I first started going to federal networking events, I was just happy to talk to anybody. But I quickly learned that being clear on what my objectives were before I entered the room resulted in better outcomes. For example, if you're trying to help customers understand that they have a problem as an objective, it'll force us to look at the guest list beforehand and seek that specific individual out for a key conversation. We should all know how many leads we get in a year and what our conversion rate is to make those leads customers. How many leads do we need to generate at this event to meet our weekly goal? You see other examples here that will jog our brains a bit beforehand to ensure that we're being as efficient and effective as possible. Step 4 is conduct market research. This is where we use sites like usaspending.gov, GovTribe, etc., to find out who is spending, when they are buying, who the contracting officers are, etc. We can also see who they've been buying from and their spend annually. We have some other courses that you might be interested in, and you can search out market research and federal procurement. And there's lots of other goodies in the resource center as well. And there's some really good video demos of market research and tactics. So I encourage you to check that out if you haven't yet. It's critical for you to start developing account profiles for the agencies that you're most interested in working with. Use spending data, LinkedIn, agency websites, or the relationships you already enjoy to identify key decision makers and influencers. Every agency is different. And keeping a data sheet like the one displayed here will be very helpful in keeping up with changes over time. Interagency relationships will become more clear to you as well. An example of the benefit of this was discovering that I had 2 separate customers who fell under the same core. We were able to combine their separate funds into a single contract, which provided them a larger discount and also doubled my sales within that agency. So trust me, there's a reason we do this aside from nice looking paperwork. Okay, so I don't see any questions, but I just want to pause here briefly and encourage you, if you have a question or a comment, please go ahead and type those in now or anytime during the presentation, and Jasmine and I will get those answered for you. So now we're going to jump into stage 2 of the business development funnel. We're going to start driving down the funnel to strategic marketing and the prospecting and pursuit of leads. So here you continue to delight your current customers, measure and tell your target market about it. You identify who can help you, but also offer to help them. And as you continue your networking opportunities and client identification, employees and partnerships of interest. Okay, got our first poll here. So what word or phrase best describes what you think of when you hear the word networking? Go ahead and select one of those. Only one. And these are anonymous, so Feel free to be truthful. And Jasmine will put those results up here
Yep, thanks.
in a minute.
Yep, I just pushed the poll out, and so we're looking for a couple more responses, and then we'll go ahead and end the poll and send the results. So we'll about give it about 20 or 30 more seconds, and then we'll continue.
Okay, business speed dating. Looks like that was our winner on this one. In conferences, which are very, very common in the federal market space. All right, so let's go ahead and look at we've got another poll for you here. So what best describes your current perspective on networking? What do you think? Go ahead and select one of those choices, please. Let's see where we all are. Okay, I enjoy it. I do it to stay in business, and I dread it. Yeah, so some owners realize this does not come naturally, but they know they have to do it. And some choose to hire for this type of person to meet that need. Right, so it's probably different for all of us. But regardless of what you put on here, pay attention. We're going to talk about this. And if you're not the person, the customer facing person or the business development person for your company, this is good information that you can share with them. So let's move on to some other tips for strategic marketing. It seems a bit counterintuitive, but we need to start everything with our current customers. As we continue to focus on delighting our current customers and ensure that they're our best champions, we can then ask them for referrals. And they're also a great source for our past performance calls that our target market can call. So, hey, remember to keep those folks happy. As we continue to provide help and value to them, a certain amount of reciprocity will develop on our behalf as well. And as we continue to help our current customers, we can generate stories and blog posts to send them, as well as newsletters that have real value. Getting to know your target market's focus and needs will really help you push great information as they give, and over time, they'll associate you as a value provider. Some great tips here on this slide are to be radically generous with free advice, even if it's just to an audience of one. Always ask yourself what this person needs now and what you can provide, regardless of if it results in the sale. Being consistent with this will show them your genuineness and really set you apart from the competition. Bottom line, make them like you, because we would all rather work with people that we like. And at the bottom of this slide, you can see that we need to continue to ensure that our website is professional looking, updated, our dynamic small business search profile has up-to-date information, certifications, and capabilities. And don't forget to consider sponsoring events and advertising with your target market in mind. So going back to understanding who each person is within your target agency, we see here that we must listen to their concerns, understand their relationship with others in the castle, and we can begin to connect the dots better to understand how to best frame our solution. Being consistent here will enable you to form the big picture over time when it comes down to writing your proposal and covering all relevant concerns for the win. It will also highlight gaps in key folks that you need to meet with in your overall networking efforts. So, another poll here. When you register on sam.gov, you usually have an intermediary, intermediary who wanted to help you find opportunities in your target market. Some were contacted and some were not. You can do this on your own or hire one of these third parties. Keep in mind, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You really need to think this through to ensure that it really makes sense for you or not. So here's our poll. First question there, after registering in beta.sam.gov, I was contacted by at least one intermediary offering to help me get government contracts and awards. So yes or no on that one. Number two, my work with one of these intermediaries or tools resulted in a net positive financial outcome. So select one of those and let's see where everyone's at.
Just waiting for a few more responses to come in, Bob. As soon as those come in, we'll go ahead and end the poll and we can see where folks are coming in on these. Okay, Bob, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
All right, so about evenly split on being contacted by someone. And the bottom one, the second question there, looks like more people have not worked with any of those intermediaries or associated tools, but one of you did have a net positive financial outcome. All right, nicely done. Thank you. So buyer beware with those. Our experience has shown that this may be a good option for you depending on your market and your budget, but it isn't for everyone. You might want to learn how they're marketing to you and perhaps apply it to your own business. But try and get a referral from someone that you trust who has used them in the past or they're using them currently. And most important, try to avoid large upfront retainers if possible. All right, so let's talk about networking here. Where to network? So as Jasmine said, the current pandemic has pretty much eliminated in-person events for a while, but they're starting to come back. But they've also started to use Zoom and Teams, and they're advertising those. So ensure that you're finding those and signing up. You might want to offer to be a speaker when appropriate or volunteering in other ways. This will pay dividends when, eventually we get back to normal with the opportunity to meet face to face. And we mentioned getting an introduction from a warm lead. This transfers the trust bridge that person already enjoys with your target contact over to you, which is nice. So a great way to do this is to use LinkedIn and do a search to see who you may already know in the agency that you're targeting. This has been very effective for me personally, and I encourage you to do this if you're not already making use of this tool. Of course, one-on-one meetings for coffee or lunch still apply. Everyone's got to eat. So when do you do your networking? When do you want to do it? Well, ideally, before the RFP comes out. You want to engage early, and the next slide is going to illustrate this. So you can see the inverse relationship on this slide and the benefit of engaging early. There's less competition, and your contact is freed up more to discuss the opportunity, the needs, etc. But as the contract nears the RFP or hitting the street stage, people in the federal government, they tend to clam up because they don't want to break any rules and things like that. They become a little more concerned. And my experience has shown that federal employees are more concerned with not breaking any rules than they are with the speed of a specific solution or RFP. So remember that. There's less competition, but the people that you're talking to, they're going to talk more. You're going to get more information. So that's why we want to focus on that before it hits the street. And you can see from this slide that during the pre-acquisition outlook, you're not going to see this published anywhere, but you'll know about it from your networking efforts. You can influence the customer decision here with an 8A or small business set aside. You can also influence the contract vehicle. You can really impact the outcome with appropriate effort here. So, what are my goals here? Confirm that you can do this work. You need to create value here. They need to know that you can do the work that they need done and that you can do it well. Take a look at the rest of the bullets here on this slide. These are great questions to ask yourself or your team as you brainstorm on some of these opportunities. Okay. You want to focus on value here. Are you focused on adding value? Right? What does that mean? Are you focused on the person that you're talking to? Help them achieve their goals, and the contracts will come. So remember all the bullets here at the bottom. Shape the opportunities to your strengths. Make sure they're aware of your brand. Create awareness of problems and solutions. Right? Shape that acquisition strategy into the smallest possible pool that enables your company to participate. And don't forget about those teaming partners. This is a good place to, put yourself in their shoes. What are they concerned about? Answer those questions. So plan for events of, where your contacts are going to be throughout the year. A lot of times if you get on Google and you Google that, that specific individual, that high level agency official that you really want to have a conversation with, you'll see that they're going to be at an event that you can attend. So if you're not doing that already, that's a good thing to do. Then you can go to that event, you can seek them out, have a face-to-face, do the card exchange, and leave them with that message that you want them to remember. But you have to plan these things. Is this something that's consistent in your company?
Bob, and I also wanted to add that one thing that I have been noticing is that as you work with some of the small business development centers, and you get on their email list, they will send out to you their networking calendars. And so, for example, we were able to get on Reston, Virginia Chamber of Commerce. Tampa, Florida, a small business development center, as well as I want to say the Washington D.C. Um, Small Business Development Council, something like that. And so while it can at times feel a bit cumbersome when they are having events, we get them and we can take a look at over a month's worth of networking events and get on. And right now, about 50 to 60% of them are virtual, but at least we're in the know of who our target audience is networking with, and then get on the calendar with those small business development centers. So if Department of Energy is networking with the Reston Small Business Development Center, and we get on some of the events that are coming out with their monthly calendar, we'll have an opportunity to engage with some of the stakeholders that support Department of Energy or Department of Education. So I just thought I would just drop that in there.
Yeah, thanks, Jasmine. Great point. And the other thing to go along with that, don't forget your agency's small business office. They are a great resource to give you or provide that information for you as well. So not all networking is in a traditional environment. So ask yourself, where can I find the people that I need to meet? So here's a quick story for you. One of the individuals I was trying to meet with was the CIO of DHS. And I sent him emails. We had some things in common. We had some mutual contacts in common, and he just would never respond. And I would leave voicemails, and just wasn't getting anywhere. And this was a really key individual that I needed to talk to. So one day I was visiting our mutual friend at his, right outside the DHS building there. And I didn't know this, but there's all these food trucks and they're lined up there and they really cater to a lot of the government workers in the area. And I was sitting outside the building talking to my friend. And all of a sudden the CIO walks out and my friend introduced him to me because the CIO was on his way to the food truck. So I thought that was kind of funny. That's how I finally got to meet him. So think about that for your, really important contacts that you really want to meet. Think about that. What you focus on expands. It doesn't have to be in an office setting or at an official networking event. It could be outside of a food truck, right? That's just one example for you. And then getting back to this table, identify your how. All right. Your goal is to influence, recommend, provide feedback on where and how your services can be procured. All right. And it may be GSA schedule. A lot of people are doing that. If you can drive it to an 8A sole source or a set aside, this is your opportunity to find out about that. Don't be afraid to ask questions. All right, the folks on the government side, they're there to answer your questions. And again, if we do it before it hits the street, they're going to be a lot more talkative and a lot more helpful, and you'll really get some good information, and you can start figuring out how you want to shape that opportunity. Okay, continuing on this, what are you saying to your folks? Do you have a plan? Do you know who you want to talk to? What questions do you want to ask them? All right, we talked about your elevator pitch, right? You always have to have that ready to go, but you want to make it as natural as possible. Avoid jargon, right? Don't lead with the fact that you're an 8A. All right, lead with your results and your value, not your status. And when you're talking to, a contracting officer in pre-acquisition or even a program manager, Um, some things that we need to remember. All right. They do not, well, first of all, they've got a lot on their plate. They're probably overwhelmed. And they don't want to put themselves in a bad situation where they have to respond to a protest. Right. So do what you can. Look at some of these bullets here. Do what you can to put them at ease, even if it's just telling them, hey, I'm not here to talk about a specific opportunity. Try to figure out how you can have a genuine conversation with those key people that you want to talk to. And don't forget, it's not always the core. All right. There's different influencers across dollar values. In this slide, if it's a really small opportunity, it could just be the PM or the contracting officer. This is a good place to ask questions. All right, maybe you're not going for the multi-million-dollar contract. Maybe you'd be happy with a $200,000 contract. Well, find out who's going to make the decision on that. Find out who the program manager is. Your focus doesn't always have to be at the top of the list when it comes to government personnel, depending on the opportunity. Okay, so now we're going to look at the proposal and award. So you've done a lot of networking, shaping the opportunity, talking to your contacts, gathering information, coming up with your strategy. Now you want to bring it all together in an intelligent way and explain how you can solve the problem with the goal of securing the contract award. So use a CRM or an Excel file throughout the year to document the customer's problems, right? All these conversations that you're having with them and that your team is having with them, and your knowledge of the decision makers, all of those things. Uh, Keep track of those, and then when you get ready to write your proposal, you can incorporate all of those. You're going to develop your win theme from all of this information. So hopefully you're going to put together a winning strategy and win that contract. If not, try to get a debrief and use that debriefing as an opportunity to continue the relationship as well as to educate yourself on how you can do better next time. All right. I hope that was helpful for you. I'm going to pass it back over to Jasmine.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Bob. I really appreciate you taking us through that. And as we are coming up here on the close of this session, we're going to wrap up with stage 4. And just talking again a little bit about nurturing those relationships, sustaining growth, and how we're going to follow up with the customer. And a lot of this is based on, kind of what we already talked about. So we want to know what it means to nurture that customer relationship. And so that means being able to, what we like to call, delight the customer, and being able to measure those results and show them as a result of our firm being here, um, you know, in this position, your agency, your department, your division has been able to achieve X, Y, and Z. So you'll find that nurturing is not just saying, "Hey, we really like you as a customer, and is there anything else we can do for you?" Well, the customer is going to say, "No, you're doing a great job. How about we change this nurturing activity into kind of what we talked about from the very beginning, information sharing?" So, hey, customer, we want you to know you guys have been excelling at an amazing rate since we started here supporting you. And here's some of the data points that we want to share with you so that you can kind of put them in your quarterly briefing to your leadership panel, to your decision panels, to, maybe you can get that into an annual report for your department's success, because you know that agencies have to report out. their success and data points, and they love data, data, data. And so from the beginning, being able to understand what it is they're trying to fix, being able to assign measurements to that, and then being able to put out measurements. And sometimes it's kind of like, hey, we've made progress, but we haven't gotten completely to where you want to go. Here's what you'll need to do next. Not as a result of, you probably not haven't done your best, but being that the time to get to turn around the existing issues problem with the solution you provided is a little bit longer than the period of performance of 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. But that being said, nurturing is that information sharing, validating those results, showing the customer, hey, you've made progress since we've been here, and here's how we know that. And that starts with this type of approach, right? And so once you're able to demonstrate to the customer, we've helped you grow from where you were, and they trust you, they're likely to send over additional partners, sister agencies they work with, to also work with you and achieve some of the same results. So we talked about making sure that there are organic growth components that you have really spoken to the customer about. You have an understanding of your approach in growing this customer. So this comes by running into issues or speed bumps and talking to them a little bit about how what they can do to fix it. Now, sometimes the customer is on board with your solution, but they may not have been able to identify the actual funding for a potential new requirement. But being able to present those data points and those measurable results and a potential solution to what could potentially be a new requirement is what nurturing growth means. Okay, and so as I said, we've got about 2 more minutes here. I didn't want to spend too much time here on some of the myths and facts, but as Bob talked about, you want to make sure that when you're going to these networking events, that you have a plan for those key conversations, that you have planned out your networking calendar, that you have done some targeted market research for those agencies that you're looking to work with. So this becomes now strategic networking in identifying those prospects and qualifying them, and then understanding that you are continuously your company's brand, and that networking is a continuous activity, and thinking that networking only happens at a conference is really kind of selling your firm short, because as Bob talked about earlier, is that he had been reaching out through traditional forums, emails, voicemails, and just by an informal, warm introduction, was able to capture a warm lead of a potential customer that he had been trying to get in contact with. And so, just understanding that networking does happen on an informal basis at coffee shops, and that is something to just always keep in mind. Wherever you are, wherever your firm is, wherever your team is, they are networking on behalf of the company. And then finally, understanding that not all senior members of an agency or department are the only influencers for a contract award. And so understanding that there are some junior staff who also have the ability to influence a requirement. They may also have been given a budget. So we want to make sure that we keep them in mind as well. And then finally, our, do's and don'ts. Some of these you're already aware of, right? So we talked about making sure that when we work with the customer, we understand what their problems are, we understand the results that they're looking for. We're generous about sharing advice and information, and we try to stay away from the word free. And we try to stick with words like at no cost to the government or industry research, dictates, and just kind of having a very informal but strong information sharing conversation or meeting, or even during the presentation of your capabilities. Sharing a wealth of information is really going to be memorable to the customer. Obviously, the don'ts are avoiding heavy jargon. And so, um, when you have your elevator pitch, your Twitter pitch, whatever that may be, you want to make sure that it isn't heavy laden with a lot of industry words that maybe not everyone is familiar with. And sometimes the government may not be as up on the latest technologies. And so you want to avoid using words that may be confusing or may be understood as something else. Obviously, we're always kind of talking about do not lead the conversation with I am 8A certified, because really this is only a vehicle, a means to influence the acquisition strategy. Does not tell the potential customer whether you can do the work and do it well. And so with that, I didn't know if we had any other questions. It looks like it's been pretty smooth and easy, but certainly feel free to email us if you think of any questions that might arise on a potential requirement. Just email our support team. This does include our session for today. We do want to thank you for attending the networking, capturing, and leveraging session today. We do ask that you complete the survey, post-course survey, just to really help us kind of refine the course. And I did put that in the chat. What I'll do is I will once again just copy and paste that just so that it's at the top of your screen. Please go ahead and tell us what you like, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more of, and we would be happy to incorporate that feedback. And then again, your certificate will be available in your virtual learning environment profile within the next couple of hours. If you don't see it, please feel free to email us at support@geconsultinggroup.com. Thank you again, everyone, for attending. We look forward to seeing you in another session, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks.